Hi guys, welcome back.
Hi, everyone.
What's up?
So I guess we're continuing our Figures of the Bible series.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to call it.
Yeah. I mean, we did have a whole conversation about David and John the Baptist. Simba from Lion King. So today we were thinking about just different people in the Bible, and we were really looking for the ones that we can kind of relate to, that we felt like stood out to us in a way of like, okay, like if they lived it, then it's like possible for me too, you know? And the one of the most obvious to me, who I find to be quite entertaining and yet at the same time so interesting, is Peter, St. Peter. I just think he is something so special, and I feel like all of us can maybe relate to different parts of him at different times in his life. And there's so much speculation for me on what his actual world was like, outside of like what the Bible suggests, but you can use different parts of what are said about him in order to kind of like show like, this is what I think, type of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've said this so often, and, you know, I can't help but have my own reflection, especially from The Chosen, you know, having him come to life and just seeing, again, that's one person's interpretation of it. But just seeing like all of the different things that he engaged in, encountered before he met Jesus and after. You know, it's not like you meet Jesus and you have a conversion and then you never make a mistake, or you never fall away, or you never even like question your belief. I mean, let's talk about him like in the boat that day and like taking one step and trusting him, and then the next step he's down under the water, you know? So I just think that, I think that we all can relate to so many different parts of him and so many different parts of his life.
Yeah. One of the things that stands out to me with Peter is like the word I would use is like messy. And I felt like similar with David when we spoke of him. I felt like David had a lot of messiness to him. But I feel like when you look at David, you see he started as like this good shepherd. Like he was this good shepherd. He was, I mean, from what we know, he wasn't looking for anything except to be that, like this good shepherd. Whereas Peter, I feel like his start is very different. Like he seems to me to be, I felt like he seems almost aggressive, impulsive, maybe even a little bit like arrogant, and didn't seem to have it all together. And I think that was the beauty of what Jesus chose, was these people from all of these different places, but yet he was like seeing them for what they were, even in their messes.
I mean, God chooses the unlikely. I mean, what are the chances the Son of Man chooses, I don't want to be mean to Peter, but a lowly fisherman?
Yeah.
I mean, from what the Messiah was called to be, you would expect him to choose like the highest of the high, the warriors, all of those high people. And what he really went for was the ill. He went for the ill. He went to come and wage war against sin and hate. That's what it was. And I feel like that is so very well demonstrated by and inside Peter, and how he changes, and how you hear when Jesus is taken for the crucifixion, he cuts the ear of the high priest's servant. And he's like, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And maybe that's how Peter was living. Maybe he was living by the sword. Maybe he was living by his anger, his ambition, his impulsiveness. And maybe what happened in the end was, I mean, we know he died. And I'd assume since he died for Jesus, he died for love.
Yeah, what really stuck out to me of what you just said was he was a lowly man. And how many times do we feel that way? How many times do we feel like a lowly person and not worthy enough to be loved or chosen by Jesus or by God? And I think then when we are, you know, I'm thinking of him when he fell to his knees and he was like, I'm a sinful man. I'm a sinful man. And it's like, how many times do we think that when we are told we're chosen or we have an encounter, it's like, it's almost like we don't even believe that Jesus could come for us or be with us. And then when he does, it's almost like we just bow our heads and we're like almost in shame. Like it takes a lot of time to like work out all of those parts of us inside that we feel so unworthy of, to really have that like close encounter with him.
I think it mirrors real life. Like, I think the unworthiness of God is how we feel sometimes with each other. Like, sometimes I think either we have the blaming of other people, like, no, you did this and like, I don't want to have any part of you. Or we think that we messed up so bad that they wouldn't want any part of us. So it's like maybe our feeling like we could be accepted by God mirrors the fact that maybe we felt like we were not accepted by other humans. Just like in a simple, disagreement that you could be having with a family member or something, or, siblings, and you have like this, like, well, this is what I think. Well, no, this is what I think. Well, no, this is what I think. And then you have like 3 different perspectives. And for me, I'm always like, I always have to be careful. Like, I always have to be like, okay, I don't want to hurt this one's feelings if I disagree here, or I don't want to hurt this one's feelings. But then the temptation then is to be like, well, they're just, this anyway. But that's not true. Like, they're not what we say that they are. But it's like such a temptation to almost like defend yourself against the possibility of something that maybe didn't even happen. It's amazing how we turn that. And then we turn that around on God when he decides he wants to have something to do with us. We're like, well, we either shame ourselves against it and we're like, well, we don't deserve it. Like, have you seen me? Or we are like, well, you don't deserve me. Have you seen you? And I think that we could be either person at all different times in our lives. It's just humanity.
Yeah, wow. That was a really cool perspective. I think too, it's like the trust, I think it's like that back and forth. It's like, okay, like I blame me, I'm not worthy enough. And then I blame you. And then, okay, I'm all in Jesus. And then I'm like, I'm asking you for something, but you're not giving it to me. You're not answering my demands. And then like, do I actually trust you? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe you're choosing me unworthy of, answering my prayer. So it's such a flip-flop all the time. And that's just humanity.
Yeah.
I feel like usually the rejection of Christ, when it comes from like, why would I want anything to do with you? Or why would you want anything to do with me? It's still putting a coin on a pedestal. Well, I shouldn't say a coin, but what I mean by that is like that those actions are 2 different sides of the same coin. It's pride in your, greatness, and then it's pride in your bad. It's, well, I'm so evil. How can you love me? And then it's, I'm so great. Why should I love you?
Wow, that's fascinating. And really, love and truth just lies in between there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what they say about false humility. Like when people are like come over to you and they're like, wow, you're like really talented. Like you're so gifted at this. This is like, and then it's like, oh no, stop it. Like I could remember like a friend of ours who's a priest, he was like, just own it. It's not humility when you don't own what you're actually good at. He's like, that's just false pride anyways. He's like, just own what you're good at. He's like, and guess what? Also own what you suck at. He's like, because that's real. That's what they say humility is. It's like just owning the truth of who you are, for good or for bad, which I think is sometimes it's like hard to do. You don't want to look like, oh my gosh, I'm so amazing. But at the same time, if you do have a talent at something, I can't sing. I know I can't sing, but if I could, I would love to be able to like say like, wow, I'm really good at that, and there are certain people who are so talented in that way. And it's like, own what you're talented at. It's beautiful, but we don't want to. Sometimes it's like, no.
I feel like it's almost like that false humility, you called it. I feel like it's almost like true humility is recognizing your skill and stuff and thanking people for it, but also recognizing that God gave you it. It's bringing it up. That I feel like it's always like when someone says, oh yeah, that was great. You're so good at this. It's almost like in typical like post-fight interviews and stuff like that, they'll always say like all glory to God.
Mm.
And that's what it is. It's like they recognize they won, they recognize they did good, but they recognized who it came from.
I feel like when someone gives me a compliment, the hardest but easiest thing to say is just thank you.
Yes.
Like, I feel like I really struggle with that. You know, someone could tell me my hair looks great. And I'm like, well, let me show you the 1 inch of my hair that doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm so good at that. I'm so good at pointing out a flaw or pointing out something that I wish I could have done better. And that's just my perfectionist thing, you know, that I have. And I remember, honestly, that's something I feel like I kind of learned from you, that humility, Janine, because I feel like you really like own that. You have that, like someone's like, whatever, I'm stuck on hair for some reason. Mm-hmm. Someone could say like, your hair looks great. And you're like, thank you so much. I know. And like someone could say, I know. And you could imagine that they're being like cocky or conceited or whatever. And it's like, no, I know I'm having a great hair day today. And it's almost shocking when you are in that place of balance, when you are in that place of like true humility, when you don't, you know, flaunt it in this arrogant way, or you don't diminish it either. And I'm talking something as simple as hair, but it goes for anything. You know, someone could tell me how great the website looks or whatever. And I'm like, but there's a box that's a millimeter off and not in line. You know, it's just like the way of who we are. I think we're our own worst critics.
So true.
The thing is, though, I feel like that's almost like a poorly imitation of God. In a way, it's like we have this natural instinct to try to fix instantly. And it's like, well, really, of course, God's the one who fixes, but, you know, we come along and we're like, oh, we could totally fix this. And then we end up messing it up a little bit more sometimes. But I feel like that's just what the human dilemma is. It's we try to fix stuff and sometimes it doesn't always work out. What I feel like with Peter, it's almost like, I'm going to touch upon names here, and it's almost like, you know, you have you're always getting good grades, you're always doing that. And it's like, you know, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? It's almost like, I almost want to say it's a title, touching upon titles. It's like you constantly get the titles and touching back to Breakfast Club.
Yes.
If that's what it's called. It's they all have those different names. And I feel like, I mean, I just did call Peter a lowly fisherman, but what he also was an apostle. That's what we truly are at heart. It's children of God. And when you do follow God, that's what you truly are. You're a disciple. You're an apostle, I almost feel like.
And I think what I love so much is Jesus saw Peter long before he was any of that. And he like loved him. Like he loved him as he was in his messy, brash, you know, Jesus, I'm going to walk on water. And Jesus was like, come on, let's go. Like, and Peter was like, okay. And then like got distracted and fell. And it's like, it was like he loved him before, he loved him during, he loves him after. And I think that's the part of it that is so hard for us to sometimes grasp, because we aren't like that, you know? Like, it's like sometimes I'm like, I love you when you're not disappointing me, or I love me when I'm not disappointing you. It's like this cycle of like looking for that balance. And I think that is where, when you see those types of characters, like I keep thinking of St. Francis of Assisi. There's a story of him, and it might not be true, but I've heard it so many times repeated. He would, you know, he was a preacher. That was his ministry, was like preaching. And he would go from place to place, and he was entering a certain town where the priest in the town was like sinful. Like he was hanging out at the bars every night, getting drunk, just not really shepherding his flock. And the people couldn't wait to like tell on him to Francis. They were like, listen, you got to straighten this guy out. He cannot get it together. He is drunk. He is fighting in bars. He is causing a scene. And, you know, and they're like, we're so happy you're here. Go tell him. And Francis was like, okay. And he like approached the priest, and he was like, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for your your consecration. Thank you so much for your yes. Thank you so much for being willing to step up and be like a man of God. And the priest was like, are you talking to the right person? And Francis was like, yes, I am. And I want to thank you. And I want to let you know that you are appreciated. And it was like the priest had such a conversion of heart because he was not called out, not judged, not blamed, not hated. And it's not that he didn't do those things, because he did. Mm-hmm. But Francis just looked at him and was like, I see what God sees. Mm-hmm. And it just changed that man's whole entire life. And I was like, imagine that. Imagine walking into a place and like listening to the truth of what these people are doing wrong and being able to look at them and be like, wow, I love you and I thank you. I think it would change anybody.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like if only I had the heart and the eyes to see that in people, rather than just walking in and judging them for how bad or good they are, just like that constant judgment in our minds. Cause I think that's what we do, you know. It reminds me of the Jeff Cavin story, which I think we did talk about when he walked into a bar with a bunch of his friends, and I think someone was dating somebody or whatever, and the guy looked as if he was, not a very nice guy. And Jeff Cavin's, different from the rest of the group, sat down and asked the guy to tell him his story. And he had this beautiful conversion story. Yeah. And I just think it's like a lesson to be learned, or we can try. I mean, none of us can like do that all the time. Obviously, we're not Jesus, but it does help shift your perspective maybe when you look at people, or you encounter people, or
when you look past what the whole entire world is looking at and seeing. It's like it, and I feel like that's exactly what Jesus did. Mary Magdalene didn't look like anything except a demon-possessed girl. And the woman at the well was, considered to be somebody who was just not welcome by anybody, not to mention that she was Samaritan. So that was like a whole other ball game. You just had it was just like he chose to walk up to the people and saw through the identity that was placed on them, like the Breakfast Club. That's exactly what he did. He went in and he was like, and that's why he was like, I came for the sick. I didn't come for the healthy. And guys, we're all the sick.
Every single one of us.
Every single one of us. And and that's just what he was saying. He was like, I came for every single one of you. It didn't matter if you were a Pharisee or a Sadducee. If they could have, looked at him and were able to be looked at, then they would have also, like Nicodemus, been converted in their hearts. Because that's all Jesus ever wanted to do, was to look and to see the best of what was in them, which is what he did with Peter. And then Peter was able to take this other role. He went from this scared man into a legend. I mean, he's a human, so he's not an actual legend. My English teacher, he's not a legend. He's a real person, but he turned into such a testimony.
I think the coolest part is that we are, Mary Magdalene was possessed by 7 demons. We all, all of us, including them, Peter was a lowly fisherman. Like, we all are the things that others do. I don't want to say others do say about us, but like maybe our labels, or he was impulsive. Yes, he was very impulsive. And I'm a perfectionist sometimes and whatever, I think it's like we all are those things, but they don't combine together make us who we are as that child of God. So it's like, it's not like I think Jesus could look at you and be like, I don't like that part of you, so get rid of that. Like, it's like he loves every single part altogether, so we are the things. We are made up of all of our different parts in one, but that true self of us is where the love, where the identity comes from.
It's the acceptance of it.
Yeah.
It's the acceptance. And I'm thinking of I'm thinking once more of Peter, and I'm thinking of his denial. Like he is chosen. And this is something that I've noticed every time in the Bible that the apostles are listed, Peter is listed first. Every single time he is listed first. And every single time Judas is listed last. And if you think about the way that went down, they both denied him. Did Judas's betrayal, was it more? Of course it was. He was the one who kind of like said, this is where it is. And you know, betrayed him with a kiss. But Peter was so on edge the whole entire time. At the Last Supper, he was so on edge. He was so not settled to the point of he cut off the ear. And it was like, my favorite part of this, and I've said this before, was that after he walked away and denied Jesus those 3 times, it was like when Jesus returned and rose and he approached him, he asked him 3 times, do you love me? And I know this is like, there's so different words for love in their language. And Jesus was basically like, Jesus was asking, do you love me enough to lay down your life for me? That was what he was asking. And Peter's answer was honest. I do love you like a brother, but I don't love you like that. And Jesus was like, let me try again. he was like, I really want you to love me. He was like, do you love me? And Peter was like, yes, but not like that, like twice. And then the 3rd time, Jesus adjusted to where Peter was at. It was like Jesus was calling him here. He was like, I want you to be here with me. I want you to be here. And Peter was like, but I'm not. And so then Jesus was like, okay, so then I'm going to come here. And that's what he does for us. Like where we are is where he goes.
Yes.
And I think that's something that's really important for us to take away from. If we learn anything from this, it's like we could be a mess, but wherever we are is where Jesus is going to go. Good, bad, indifferent.
Yeah, and he meets you there. And I think if you're willing and you want to, somewhere deep inside of you, you want to move past that up higher, or maybe there's something that happens in your life and then you go down lower, like he goes with you.
Yeah.
You know, he goes through that full spectrum of wherever you are or wherever your life is. You know, I sometimes feel like we, you know, it's kind of like a comparison of maybe like Peter and Judas. Like, I think, you know, you're saying they're first and then they're last. And it's like, I also heard somewhere that they're the most talked about in the Bible, and for like different reasons, good and bad. But I don't think it means that if Peter's talked about first, that means everything about him is good and perfect. And I think if you go back to Judas, it's like not everything about him was all bad, but the bad and ultimate decisions led to one path, and then the good decisions of Peter led to another path.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
One of the, I'm sorry, I keep talking about The Chosen, but I just can't stop seeing like Peter and all the things that we're talking about in him. One of my favorite parts of The Chosen is when Peter is on the roof with Mary Magdalene, and they're both looking at each other. And I think they're like, you know, when you say like Peter is like first, I feel like Mary Magdalene and the women is like also like way up there, obviously. And the two of them, you just see the two of them like in this moment, and they were in the messiest of messes before, you know, and they look at each other and they have this moment of just like lock eyes, and they're like, are we doing this? Yeah. And they're like, yes. And that moment of yes for the two of them, like, was so inspirational for me. It was like, yes, like, let's go. And especially in that moment when they were like, you know, dropping the paralytic through the roof. It's like, yeah, wow. That's one of my favorite parts. That's one of my favorite lines of Peter. And I know there's like so many lines or whatever, and it's not in the Bible, but it's just that emotion of like, are we doing this? You know, because we all have to make the choice at some point. So.
And the thing was, going back to the, you know, Jesus asking Peter if he loved him. It's I feel like, yes, he does meet you there, but also where he called you to be is most likely where you will end up eventually. I mean, Peter did end up giving his life up for Jesus. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of what happens to us. If he calls you to go somewhere, you're going to eventually end up there.
And he always gives you the freedom to choose also. Like Peter had to choose that on his own. We have the free will. So I think that's also something that's so beautiful about stories. And
Yeah. So I think that bottom line for us in this episode is like, he's no different than any of us, you know? It's just what we're willing to see in ourselves, and what we're willing to allow maybe, you know, God to see in us too, and just rise. Like, I feel like Peter rose literally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's just the place that we all want to go. You know, we want to be like them, standing on the roofs and just being like, are we really here for this? Like, is this happening? And it could be happening for any one of us. We just need to say yes.
And I think there's something to be said about our own like parts of us. Like, I'm thinking specifically of Peter's impulsivity.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus didn't say, get rid of your impulsivity. No. He's like, okay, I'm going to use this for the greater good. So whatever it is that you feel that might be not your best quality, you know, Jesus can get that under control in a way, you know, and use it for the good. Mm-hmm. Use it for the good. So I don't think it's a matter of like, as we're moving forward in a relationship with God or Jesus and making it, you know, and making those steps, that we erase things that we're maybe not proud of, or things that are like not looked at as like the best qualities in us, because he can use anything.
And I think I remember in the story of that priest with St. Francis, like when he really did have that turn around, that conversion of heart, he wound up being like this huge preacher to like the outcasts that he was spending all of his time with. He wound up being like that person that was able to go into that place, because they would look at him and be like, what happened to you? You know, and he wound up being able to like meet them where they were too. And it created like a whole conversion, from what I understand, in that town. I mean, I wish I remembered the name of the town and all that, but I just remember that story, and that's what it is. It's like your ability to just, it doesn't make you better than other people. Like, that's the thing, you know, people always like, oh, you know, they think they're so much better. No, nobody thinks that. We're not better than anybody. We're just, it's just a turnaround. It's just a change. And it should open us up to be able to relate to everybody better, to accept people better, just like in the Breakfast Club, when they all came together and were able to, for 5 minutes, accept each other.
Yeah, relatability. That's the word that was standing out to me when you were sharing that. It's like, you know, who's going to influence you more? Someone who experienced what you're going through, or someone who read a book about it or had no experience in it? You know, your conversion stories are what help people have their own conversion stories. Yeah. So his messiness, his drinking, his all those bad decisions he was making, because he can now speak about them, he can reach people that he maybe couldn't have reached before.
Yeah. Yeah. So if any of you think that you're not worthy, or you're not good enough, or you're not like welcome, that's a lie.
Yeah.
That's a lie, and it is something that needs to be trampled underfoot, because you are good enough, and you are welcome, and you are wanted always.
Amen.
Amen.
Tiny miracle time?
Yes.
I had so many tiny miracles this week, and I can't remember them, if I'm honest, but I have a tiny miracle that I'm going to share from somebody who actually just literally sent me the message about an hour ago. This person was wearing her mother's wedding ring. She had been wearing it for the past, I think it was 30 years. It was like 68 years old. And she looked down and the diamond was missing. And they looked everywhere and for the diamond, and they could not find it. So I'm not sure how much time went by, but a decent amount of time went by thinking that it was gone and lost. And she said she had reached into her pockets of her jacket and she thought there was like a pebble in her jacket, and she was like, what the heck, and like went to like take it out and like throw it out of her pocket, but it was the diamond. And she said she had worn this jacket like every day and put her hand in her pocket multiple times and didn't find the diamond. But she did specifically say that she had been praying to St. Anthony for it. And so I just think that was just such a beautiful story. And thank you for sharing. Thank you. I love hearing your tiny miracles.
Yes,
so
we do love it. And
keep
people
sharing
do
them.
send them. It is such a cool thing. My tiny miracle is not nearly as big as that one, but mine is we had like snow day this week and I was so concerned. I was worried I wasn't going to be able to get like some work done, testing and everything. And I had one of my days that I had to do my work was canceled because of the snow. So I was like in overdrive trying to make sure I was able to get done what I needed to get done. And I totally got it all done. And I'm just so happy and relieved that all of my work was able to get completed. I mean, I was working until the last possible second, but I got everything done, and it's just such a relief. So that was my miracle, that I was able to fit in everything.
My tiny miracle was the snow days.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Got to have a little bit more time off of break, and that was nice.
Yeah. We're on that like down slope down to like towards the end of the school year. So here we go. But, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. We are continuing to release our prayers on all of our social media, especially YouTube. They're a little bit longer. So if you want to walk with them and walk with us throughout the week, if you need something for anxiety or overwhelm or, anything and everything, we've got it there. So
also, if you can check out our website, Marissa's been working really, really hard on it. And it is like so beautiful, and just so grateful and proud of all of her work. So if you guys want to take a look at our website, it's really beautiful.
Well, thank you. Look at me. Look, see, that was progress. I didn't tell you about what box was off. I just said thank you.
There could have been a box off, but I never would have known.
But all right, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
See you later, cheese graters.
Oh, that's good. That's funny.